I wanted to say a few words about the usage of play on words or something maybe even rhythmic in the Torah. It's interesting that we find that in English we usually translate the sentences of the Torah as verses, meaning it sounds like it's something like a music, right? Verses are in music. We don't say a sentence, we say a verse in the Torah. In Hebrew it's called pasuk. I'm not sure the exact translation of this word, what it would be in English, because there are these special tones, really musical tones, what we call Taamim. Literally, they give taste to the reading of the Torah. Just like Tam, a person in order to sustain himself could eat anything as long as it has the right calories and the right balance of vitamins and whatever else a person needs. But it's nice to have also a taste. It's like an additional benefit. If it's also tasty, that's just great. If it's not, you could still live with it, but it's not enjoyable. So in a way, that's why maybe these musical notes are called Taamim, meaning without them you could also generally get the idea of what the verse is saying. But the Taamim, they give it a whole extra life of sort of, it gets extra taste. First of all, they can be used as the signs to understand which phrase, where the phrase ends, where the new phrase begins. A lot of times you could guess it, but not always. It's not always so intuitive. So the famous story, right? The famous joke in English is a woman without her man is nothing, right? How do you put the commas? A woman without her man is nothing, or a woman without her man is nothing, right? Without a woman, a man is nothing. So depending on where you put the comma, of course, the meaning can be exactly the opposite. And so too there, of course, in every language. My native language is Russian, so we had similar things in Russian with examples of this type of stuff. So the point is that, of course, there are cases when the Taamim can tell us how to read the verse, where which word is the end of the phrase or the beginning of the new phrase. So this is important. But in addition, it gives this kind of taste, the musical sound of the verses. Of course, with the way the Torah is read, it's musical, right? There are different tunes, of course, that exist in various communities, and there are differences also between different parts of Tanakh. The Chumash, the 5 books of Moshe, is read one way. The Nevi'im, the prophets, are read on a more solemn, I would say, tune. Chazon, Yeshayahu, Ben Amos. I'm not so good at this. I don't have really a musical ear, but you get the idea. Of course, everybody who was in a synagogue knows how the Haftorah is read. It's much more musical in a certain sense. And then there are special tunes, for instance, for Megillat Esther. It's a kind of funny, almost a play type of tune. Then there is a tune for Megillat Eicha, the opposite. This is a very sad. This is Lamentations, right? The book of Lamentations that I read on the saddest day of our year, the day of the destruction of both temples, the 9th of Av. So there, everything is very sad. Then there's a different tune for Kohelet. That book is read with a kind of wisdomic, if I could call it, inventing such a word. Whatever. So there are different tunes for different things. And it obviously adds the taste to our understanding. So it's not for nothing that the Torah is said to have verses rather than just sentences. But it's almost never that we find a kind of rhythmic verse. It doesn't mean that it couldn't have been written rhythmically. Certainly, the Torah could have used rhythms, at least in the songs. There are 2 places in the Chumash and a number of other places in the rest of the Nevi'im and Ketuvim in the whole of our Bible, the Hebrew Bible, the Tanakh, which are called songs, meaning they're written differently in the text, and they are even more of a song, even though the entire Torah is a song, but these places are even more of a song than the rest of the Torah. And even there, we do not find rhythmic. We find a pattern. There's certainly a certain rhyme in terms of not things ending with similar sounds. What do we usually call rhyme in English? Things rhyme when they end on similar sounds, right? Like if it ends on a or ta or something in both words, then this rhymes. And there are different structures of rhymes, like let's say tu or a b or whatever else, or a b. There are all kinds of different ways to rhyme. But there's also a rhythm in the sense that you want to have the words and stresses kind of spread in a certain pattern, meaning if you would have a lot of stresses, a lot of accents in the words that are next to each other, then it's not a rhythm anymore. The rhythm is something like abba, abba, da, da, as opposed to abba, abba, or abba, abba. You see what I'm trying to say? That where the stress is, it's kind of spread apart. And that, in fact, exists in the Torah all the time. There are even rules, what's called nasog achor in grammar, and that is sometimes a certain word would end with a stress, and the next word would begin with a stress. Most words in Hebrew end with a stress. What's called milera in Aramaic, the stress is at the last syllable, sort of like French. But there are exclusions. And imagine a situation where one word ends with a stress, and the next word begins with a stress. So that's too many stresses in a row. And then the concept of nasog achor happens, meaning the stress of the previous word is moved back by one syllable. So this way a kind of rhythm still remains. So that kind of rhythm, that in that sense, Torah is very rhythmic, and especially the songs. The song we just read 2 parshas ago, Ha'azinu, right? It's clearly a very beautiful rhythm. Ha'azinu hashamayim va'adabera v'tishma haaretz imrei fi, etc., etc. It's clearly a kind of rhythm. So what I want to talk about in case of Parshat Noach, our weekly reading this week, is the topic of a rhythm in the traditional sense, or at least the play on words of a certain kind, that Rav Ruben Margulis noticed. That when Noach blesses his son Shem, he says, Baruch Hashem Elokei Shem. And then when he blesses Yafet, he says, Yaft Elokim Liyefet. So, first of all, apparently Rav Ruben Margulis assumes that Hashem, literally the name, that's how we refer to Hashem. But apparently he assumes that that's how Noach also referred to him. We do it because we don't want to pronounce the divine name for nothing. And in regular conversation, we just say the name. When we refer to God, we say Hashem, the name. But apparently he thinks that that's what the Torah meant. Baruch Hashem Elokei Shem. Right? Blessed is Hashem, who is God of Shem. And then Yaft Elokim Liyefet. Yaft, of course, comes from Yefet. Make Hashem make beautiful, wonderful for Yefet. Yafet. And on this I'm going to end for today. If you like this video, please press like and please subscribe to our channel.